Welcome to 6 Gun Guitars Leafy Lessons video series. We're going to continue with the Danish Oil video that we did, and we're going to go ahead and apply the top coat to it. The board that I have here is the board that we completed in the first video. All we did was put a couple of coats of Danish Oil on it, and then we did a sanding procedure with the Danish Oil to fill the grain with the sawdust that creates when you sand with oil. So that's all filled. This has been dry for probably a week now, something like that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go over and prep this surface to take the armor seal, which is a wiping varnish, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. But the whole reason we're doing this is I can get that nice color and this really nice pretty look from the oil, and then I can get some, because really right now it has almost zero protection. I mean, I'm on bare wood right now. And then you can go ahead and cover it with that wiping varnish, and that'll give you a little bit more protection. So we're going to go over to the bench and show you how to do that. The first thing, this is what we're using. It's called Armor Seal. General Finishes makes this stuff. It says it's an oil and urethane top coat. It's really a wiping varnish. What a varnish is it's an oil and a resin that are heated, and they chemically combine and they form an entirely different substance, and that substance is called a varnish. The problem with the varnish is it's sticky and gummy at full strength, so what they do in a wiping varnish is they mix it with some of its thinner, and usually 50-50 or less. Mix it with some of its thinner so that way it has a little more open time and it lasts a little longer as you're brushing it, and that's essentially what we have here, and that becomes a wiping varnish. This stuff is formulated right out of the can so that way you can use a t-shirt to put it on, and that's because it has a lot of thinner in it as well as the varnish itself. If it was just varnish or a lot more varnish, you wouldn't be able to put it on with a t-shirt, and probably even wouldn't be able to put it on very good with a brush. But really, really easy stuff, really, really easy to use, and will provide you a little bit more protection than just the Danish Oil by itself. And this stuff is you can get it in a variety of sheens. It's all glossy, but they add flatteners in it to get you your semi-gloss and matte and satin and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going for the kill here, and this is 100% gloss. There's no flattening agents added to it. I really want to see what I can do with this board and see how much of a shine I can get on it. So that's the Armor Seal, and we'll head over to the bench now and we'll show you how to apply it. Here's the board, and the first thing that I'm going to do here, just because I can feel that there's still a little bit of nibs on here and so a little bit of stuff that's kind of left over from when I sanded it with the Danish Oil, and I want to get that stuff off obviously before I go with my top coat. So I've got some 320, you can use 320, 400, 600, probably really doesn't matter, this is what I've got on hand. But I just want to go with the grain this time and just kind of make sure I knock off any of the surface irregularities that are on here. Now be careful, you don't want to go too deep. You just want to get through the top, just kind of evening out what's up there. And that is really it. This is going to lighten up just a little bit, and that's fine. A lot of that lightening up is removing that hardened slurry that was on the top from sanding in the first video. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Sandpaper's starting to corn, so I don't want to do any more just because I don't want to ruin the finish. In case you don't know what corning is, that's what it is. It's those little hard knob kind of nuggets that get stuck to your sandpaper. And what these do is these wind up actually grinding the surface, and it winds up making the surface worse than it was, before you actually started sanding it, which is completely counterproductive. So this feels really, really good actually now. It feels nice and smooth. I don't really feel any irregularities on here. Don't really see any scratches. So now I think it'd be a good idea to switch over to the Armor Seal, which is, again, this guy. Now I'm going to stop for a moment and pause it and come back because you want to stir this stuff really, really good before you start using it, because there's a lot of good stuff on the bottom apparently. So I'm just going to do a swirl like this, and I'm going to do this for around 30 seconds to a minute, and I'm going to find a brush, and actually I'm going to find a rag, and when we come back we'll go ahead and start putting on some of this Armor Seal. Okay, so we're back, and I have been shaking this up, kind of like this, to get everything stirred up real good. I don't want to do this side-to-side thing really fast, because I'm trying not to introduce too many bubbles to it. I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue, but better safe than sorry. Went ahead and cut myself a bit of rag that I'm going to be using. So let's get this opened and start applying it. Oh yeah, that's actually has an interesting kind of amber tone to it there. It's let's see what this winds up looking like in the can. It looks interesting. Let's get a little bit on the rag here and start wiping. I'm just going to fold my rag up, kind of like this. All I did was fold it in half once. Just fold it in half once and then fold it in once and fold it in once again. I just like to not have any edges where I'm wiping, which is really personal preference. Really nothing to do with anything else. I'm going to go ahead and suck up a little of that and go ahead and put it on. Now again, this stuff is formulated to go on with a rag, but if you do want to put it on with a brush, you definitely can. What you want to go for is you want to make sure your entire coat is wet. So you want to get it applied and move on to your next area quickly. You really don't want to linger and spend a lot of time going over areas that you've already gone over. Now, the reason you don't want to do that is because as soon as it starts to set up and you hit it again, what's going to wind up happening is it's going to leave track marks and it's going to tack, and it's not really going to fully level between the two of them. So I've got this board completely covered with a nice, even, light, wet coat, and that is all that I'm going to do on it. I'm going to put my lid back on here so this doesn't go away. And now, especially with my rag here, because I use a lot of these little rags, what I want to do is I want to take these rags, and when you throw them out, you don't want to cluster them up. Throw them out in different parts of the garbage. Throw them out put them in areas where they can actually evaporate off without being stuck under anything, because these make heat as they cure. So as they absorb oxygen, they make heat, and that's what can make them catch fire. So what I'm going to do is set this one on the top of my garbage can, not touching any other rags, so that way by the time this is dried and good and I'm ready to throw out the trash, I don't have anything to worry about. So put that over here. Now, you can see we've got one good coat on here. We can already see a little bit of glossiness, and part of that's just really because it's wet. So the dry time on this, according to the can, is several hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit for a few hours and then come back and put a few more coats on it, and then we'll kind of see what happens from there. I definitely want to get at least another coat or two on here, and then at that point I'm sure we're going to have to do some final finishing of the actual finish itself, to bring up the gloss to the level that I want it to be at. Out of the can is going to be pretty good, but I definitely want to do the best I can on this one. I really want to see how glossy we can get it. So that might be in a separate video. It might be in a continuation on the end of this one. I just have to see how long it's going to be. But I'm going to come back and put a couple more coats on that, and we'll see what this looks like here in a bit. But if you have any questions, just shoot me an email, 6gunguitars@gmail.com, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. Again, this was a base coat of Danish oil. Then it was sanded with Danish oil to fill the grain, and then wiped clean across the grain and let it to dry for a few days. And then there's a single coat so far of Armor Seal, which is by General Finishes, in the gloss. And again, every little later on today, I'm going to put another coat on here, once this is dried up. And I'll probably put 3 or 4 coats on here just to kind of see where it goes, and then come back and we'll buff it out and we'll see what that looks like then.